Hey guys, welcome back to the REVan channel. You may remember this guy, Kurt Neighbor. A few months ago, we caught up with Kurt. He was running his 65 Comet at the NMCA event. That thing's got a camera with stack injection. It did really well on the channel. You guys loved it. Today we're at the NHRA US Nationals, a totally different kind of event. We're here with Kurt again. He's got a different car. This thing is a 427 Thunderbolt with a 4-speed.
Yes.
And you won class eliminations.
Yes, I won class of US Nationals.
And you beat a Chevy in the process.
I beat a Corvette in the finals.
How cool is that?
Very cool.
Just like we did with the Comet, Kurt's going to take us through this car. He's going to give us a look. You're going to want to see this Thunderbolt. We did Ray Paquette's car last year when we were here, and everybody loved that thing. This thing's just every bit as cool, and Kurt builds his own motors. He does his own transmissions and clutches. He's the driver, the tuner. Kurt, great to see you again.
Great to see you too, sir.
So let's take a look at the car, and let's start with the motor.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're at the US Nationals here, and we just won class, and I want to explain a few things about my car. It's an original 64 Fairlane, a clone, not a real Thunderbolt, but we run a 427 high riser dual quad, just like they came from the factory. It's a legal super stock engine, legal specifications, right from Ford in 1964. Carburetors, valve size, compression ratio, bore and stroke. This one here has aluminum heads on it, custom built, and a custom valve job and part work done by Bischoff. And the rest of the stuff is all my configuration: the pistons, the bore, the camshaft, and it makes about 935 horsepower.
So Kurt, what are some of the challenges in building a competitive super stock engine?
You have to upgrade all that stuff to build that kind of horsepower and have it stay together. So it's an aftermarket block, aftermarket crank, aftermarket heads. It's a sheet metal manifold with reproduction original carburetors on it.
But yet a lot of the specifications, there's a limit on port runner size. You can't just build the motor any way you want, correct?
You have to have the original CCs on the intake and exhaust, the original valve size, original valve stem size, the original compression ratio, the original dome on the piston, and bore and stroke is a little modification to it.
And then you run a solid roller camshaft.
The camshaft is unlimited. This camshaft, when I received it from Bullitt, the lift was 0.999. When you clear things internally properly and your valve springs are set where they need to be to survive, the parts today are really superior.
So tell us a little bit about going down the track. Like, how high do you shift this thing? What do you launch at?
If the track is really tight, we'll launch between 6,000 and 7,000 RPMs. Like today, the sun's been on the track all day yesterday, all day before, and a lot of cars have gone down, so the track is mediocre. So I left at 5,600 this morning to get down the track. If you leave much higher than that, you'll just knock the tires off and you won't get down the track.
And what's the shift RPM?
9,200.
Oh my God, and what's it go through the lights?
In B, it goes through at 88. In A, it goes to at 91.
9,100 RPM for a big block Ford.
Yes.
Let's take a look at this engine, because you've got some neat stuff going on with the carburetors, and now you can run any intake as long as the carburetors stay in the original configuration, meaning side to side, front to back.
Yes.
And NHRA does check that stuff out. So Kurt, looking at the engine here, what are some of the things you do with the intake manifold and the carburetors as far as height and runner length and things like that? Are you messing with that a whole lot?
Yes, the original distributor would be halfway into the intake manifold. So I had a custom offset distributor made, which allows me to leave the intake manifold built precisely the way it needs to be instead of making a provision in it for the distributor.
And what about the intake manifold as far as figuring out runner lengths and plenum volumes and things like that?
There's a mathematical equation that the guys that build these things have learned over the years the proper way to build them. So basically that kind of stuff is left up to the intake manifold designer. The head configuration was set up by Ford to CCs, and when you send a set of heads out, they have a real small port, and then you make the port to the size you need, and the volume runner has to be exactly the same size as the factory one, but we move it over about 3/8 of an inch further, so we straighten the port out, and we put offset rocker arms to bring the push rod over further off to the side to allow the port to be more in line with the valve.
Kurt, tell us about that Silver Fox.
The Silver Fox, my wife is a very talented lady, and she takes care of me every day of my life, and this little logo that she created to put on my cars, my trailer, the golf cart, the tow vehicle, and it means that I'm her Silver Fox.
That's awesome, man.
Yep. Okay, the accumulator tank is this one here. That's a reserve tank. If you lose oil pressure, it'll supply oil to save the engine. On your startup, it'll pre-charge the oil system, so you start with a wet engine instead of a dry engine on your engine startup. This button here arms the data logger. You hit that, you pre-stage, you hit that button that arms the data logger, starts it running. And before you, this is the shift light, this is a low pressure oil light. I've lost oil pressure 4 times with this car in high gear before the finish line, where something has failed in the oiling system, the light comes on, I'm able to shut the engine off and save the engine. This is the switch control here. These 2 switches arm the gauges. This 3rd switch is the water pump, fan, fuel pump, ignition, and the starter button.
And the big thing everybody's going to want to know is this contraption here, which is your vertigauge shifter. Tell us all about that.
That's a Liberty inline shifter. It's got an extra lever on it for reverse, and you pull up on it and it puts it in 1st gear, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. You just boom, boom, boom. The gate falls and goes in the next gear automatically.
What gear do you do the burnout in?
I do the burnout in 2nd gear.
All right, Kurt, that's the Wally that everybody comes here for. Class winner in Superstock B, one of the most classic, long time running classes here in NHRA, Superstock A, B, the big block Superstock classes. And how does that feel to take home a Wally here?
Feels fantastic. I've worked very hard for the last 5 years getting the car competitive to do this.
Is it extra special beating a Chevrolet big block?
Absolutely. They're been a menace for years and years, and I've enjoyed being the guy that can put them on the trailer.
That's awesome. Thank you for another great video. You got so many cool cars, and we love doing this kind of work with you. Hold that baby up. Let's see what you got. Look at that. That's awesome. So thanks for checking out the REVan channel, guys. We got more great stuff coming up. And Kurt, take it home.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate everybody looking at these for him. Gives you an insight on what we got to go through to do this kind of competitive work.